Welcome. In front of me I have the Realme Narzo 50, as you can see, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a relatively quick overview of this device. So anyway, I just start off and pop it straight open. Feel the power. We'll see if I will feel the power. Now, with the device, we get a case, which I always like to see. I'm not gonna go into the paperwork. Let's be honest, none of us really care what's in the instruction. Then here we get the phone itself. So let me just take it out. Now, it does have a fairly nice finish. I do like it. I'm gonna turn it on right away just so it already boots up. Come on, chop chop. There we go. And while it's booting up, I'm gonna finish up the box overview. So, get a cable, Type C to Type A, just a typical cable, and a charger. Now, the size of the charger is actually fairly big, but I don't think it's actually going to be super fast. I'm assuming it's like a 30-watt charger. 33. You can see it in the last line right here. Now, I'm pretty sure you probably can't see this on the camera. So, yeah, I'm just going to kind of say it is a 33-watt charger. Now, it is a little bit on the bulkier side for a 33-watt charger, but still a nice inclusion that you actually have a charger in the box, unlike Samsung. So now we can move over to the phone. So gonna keep the case to the side right now. I'm gonna put it on later just so you can see how that looks like with the case. But starting off, while I'm going to the setup here, I'm gonna quickly also touch upon the display itself that you're looking at right now. So this is a 6.6-inch display. It's a 1080p by 2412 pixels, and it is an IPS LCD display with 120 Hz refresh rate. So that's basically all the like worth mentioning kind of characteristics of this device, this display. So unfortunately, we don't have like an AMOLED display here or HDR10 Plus or anything like that. So that's a little bit on a less feel the power side. Now, in terms of screen to body ratio, we're looking at 84.6% and about 400 pixels per inch. So this is what I would consider in terms of like the display, something like a mid-range display, a mid-range to high range. It does have a high refresh rate, though it's just an IPS LCD display and nothing else, with a 1080p resolution. Now 1080p you would expect at basically mid-range all the way up higher to basically flagships with 120 Hz refresh rate as well. Some phones have 140, though still 120 is already good enough. But that the fact that this is just an LCD display kind of feels a little bit bad, I would say. Now I'm gonna quickly, before I progress any further, I'm gonna quickly check out the price of this. And looking at the price, I needed to kind of convert it because it was in rupees. So it's not really my currency, so I don't really know how much it's worth. But this device comes actually at roughly a budget price tag. Actually, not roughly. This is a budget device. So for a budget phone, to have 1080p 120 Hz refresh rate, damn, that is actually really good. So what I was saying before doesn't apply to this phone. The display right here for the price that you pay, really good. Damn, money well spent here. Now, quickly get back to my little spec sheet here on my computer. So continuing this, if we look at the back, just the camera setup right here, we have a triple camera setup, though I can already see that is not really the case. So the main sensor is a 50 megapixel wide sensor, and that is going to be a good camera. And then we have a 2 megapixel macro, which is shit. And then we got another 2 megapixel depth sensor, another absolute dog water sensor here. So to be honest, you have only one camera. Depth sensor is used by portrait mode most of the time, and though not always. And usually it results in you having like this weird halo effect where the device tries to like distinguish what's the background, and for instance what is you as a portrait, right? So it creates around your hair like a line, like a visible line, where it literally has like a slice from being focused to being completely blurry above it. It looks absolutely horrendous, and it, in my opinion, just breaks the photo itself. Don't use that. If it's used in portrait mode, then stay away. Just use the normal photo mode, which will not use it. Then moving on to the macro sensor, that's another joke, because you have a 50 megapixel sensor right here. Now the reason why this is a joke is because if I actually open up the camera, I will actually demonstrate this. So I'm gonna agree here, whatever. We're gonna do a 2x zoom. This is a 50 megapixel, so you will still get a stupid amount of detail from a photo that is zoomed in at 2 times. Trying to see how close I can get before the device starts losing focus. And now I'm gonna focus on the little rocks right there. Yep, so there we go. This is a normal photo. And now I'm gonna quickly go to... Oh, they have the audacity to call it ultra macro. Okay. Okay there, Realme. And it looks like this is as close as I can get to it. If I get any closer, it starts blurring out. I don't know if it's totally visible on the camera, but looking at the display, obviously I can see it clearly. So straight up, the first photo that we will be looking at is the macro, just because it's the latest one. And you can kind of zoom in and see that it is blurry. Now, because I am literally recording a screen like this, it's not gonna be as great of a showcase. So I'm gonna try to like zoom it in closer while holding it, just so you can see that it is coming out blurry, right? And it's not in great detail. If you look at edges, they're kind of like fuzzy. So now let's look at the other photo. There we go. And this is the 50 megapixel wide shot with a 2x zoom. And this obviously comes out way better. So it has way more detail. Hopefully the camera is picking that up clearly enough for you to actually see. But this is obviously a significantly better shot in almost every case. Sharper, more detailed, and better exposed. So, like I mentioned, macro, absolute shit here. Anyway, let's move away from the camera. Actually, no, before I do, I'm going to just mention one last thing. Selfie camera right here. This is a 16 megapixel wide sensor. There we go. Now we can move away from the cameras. So moving away, I'm going to touch upon the internals. So in here, we have a 64 gig storage version and 4 gigabytes of RAM, or 128 gigabyte storage with 6 gigs of RAM. Obviously, the price will vary depending on which one you pick. And honestly, I would recommend, actually 4 gigs of RAM seems like a decent enough amount for a budget device. So 64, if you're planning to get as cheap as possible, will be sufficient enough, at least in my opinion. You can go for the higher one if you want to. And most likely we can also expand the storage further here. Yep, we have an SD slot and double SIM card. So if you need more than 64, but you don't want to spend more on like the higher version of this phone itself, you can obviously pick the 64 with 4 gigs of RAM and pop in an SD card if you have one. That's great. Pop it in and you just got yourself more storage. And obviously if you want, you can go for the 128, which results in you also getting more RAM, which is still beneficial. But it's not really a necessity. And we are running here a Helio G96 processor, which from just kind of using this seems like it's running quite okay. Though let me quickly check something. This seems a little bit sometimes weird when it comes down to refresh rate. The processor might not be up to snuff to actually keep it like super always fluid. No, right now it seems like it's running good. So yeah, sometimes when the processor isn't good enough, obviously it won't be able to push 120 Hertz constantly, and it might result in like some weird stutters or just kind of like weird looking images or just screen. Now I'll mention you're viewing this on YouTube, and because of that this video is running only at 60 frames, so the 120 Hertz that this phone can display is completely lost. Anything above 60 is not visible for you. You might just see kind of like the smoothness of the text when it's in motion, how it looks like where it's just kind of stretched out, and 60 you will basically see sometimes in between frames where it's just kind of like cutting it out. And 120 you don't tend to see that, but just the smoothness itself that I experience comparing to what you see on the video is not anything close to what the phone can do. So there we go. Just wanted to kind of get that out there as an info. Now, lastly, we have a 5000 mAh battery with that 33 watt charger and fingerprint that is doubling as a power button on the side. Headphone jack, which I guess nowadays it's considered as a feature again. And that's about it. So there we go, that's basically the device. And for roughly like I think even less than $200, this is actually a really decent device. It runs fairly well for how much it costs. It has a really nice display. It is on a bit of a heavier side, but still you get if you drop it, you get a case here, so the weight shouldn't really matter that much. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. It's like I kind of mentioned, it's a fairly decent device, well priced, at a fairly competitive price range here, and offers decent, at least in terms of like the display and the camera, decent features to be worth the money. So anyway, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.